Looking for something to do in retirement, a New Jersey man who spent 25 years working as a police officer decided to get his huge pet dog trained as a therapy dog. Jager was immediately so much in demand, his human handler never got to retire. Today, they respond to sometimes horrific situations to bring calm, comfort, and love. Now, K9 Jager is in the running for a national award. Hello, I'm Sandra Levine, host of Still Time for Joy. My guest today is Mark Stanish, K9 Jager's owner and handler, who works part-time as a community service aide for the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office in Toms River, New Jersey. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Hi, Sandy. Thanks for having me.
You are welcome. So I had the pleasure of meeting you and K9 Jager on the boardwalk in Seaside Heights, New Jersey at a recent event, and I was immediately drawn to this dog. What kind of dog is K9 Jager, and what makes him so endearing?
His breed is a Boerboel, and a Boerboel is also known as a South African Mastiff. And I think what catches people's attention the most is the sheer size of him at first.
So how big is K9 Jager?
Jager weighs 181 pounds.
That is a big dog. Yet, what about his personality? Is he a gentle giant?
People often describe him as a gentle giant when he's working, and he is. I think that's a very accurate description of him. I think the size is what draws people in, and then they realize his demeanor, and a lot of people comment on his eyes. You know, a lot of people get drawn right into his eyes, so...
Very soulful, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So you worked for 25 years as a police officer in Long Beach Township, New Jersey. Now that's a beach community on Long Beach Island. And you were getting ready to retire and thought you might be bored. So tell me what happened.
So the last year of my career, I was actually on loan to the prosecutor's office, even though I still worked for Long Beach Township. We did a lot of wellness stuff. I work in the special offenders unit where we handle mental health diversion, veterans diversion, and we do a lot of outreach for the office in and around the county. And I had the chance to run into a couple therapy dogs at different things, and I thought, man, that would be pretty cool to do in retirement. Something to keep me busy, something to keep me engaged. And I couldn't imagine how busy and how engaged it would keep me.
So you decided to get him certified as a therapy dog. Tell me about the process. What do the dogs learn? And what are some of the certifications K9 Jager has now?
Well, the first thing you have to do is make sure that they have all their basic obedience, right? That he can sit, that he can stay, that he can down, come upon, recall when called. So that's basic stuff that you have to do. From puppyhood up until a year old, it's a great idea to socialize them. I talk to a lot of people who want to make their dogs therapy dogs, and you can't start therapy dog training until 1 year of age. So some people are like, well, I'll just start at 1 year. But if you start then, you're going to be way behind. Socialization is vital to the success of a therapy dog because you don't know where you're going to go. Your environments are unpredictable. The time of day is unpredictable. The exact thing you're going through is unpredictable. So you begin the training and you could fail on the first day or you can succeed up until the last day and fail that day. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot of patience because dogs are animals, but they can be trained. Jager aims to please. That's all he wants to do is make me happy. So he knows if he's doing his thing, he is. He is a dual certified therapy dog. He is certified through the Alliance of Therapy Dogs, which is an international organization. And he is also now certified through the United States Police Canine Association through their newly introduced canine therapy program. And that specific training is what makes him an actual police canine therapy dog.
So what is involved with the training? Just tell me a few things that K9 Jager had to learn, and how did he take to the training?
The first day of training is looking at his temperament, bringing him into a strange environment around other dogs. Is he reactive or non-reactive? We don't necessarily want the dogs, when they're in each other's presence, to be friendly, to play, because then they're not paying attention to their mission at hand. So our goal is for the dogs to be indifferent to one another. to make sure that they're there and they're not affected by other dogs coming and going. So that's the very first day, is them judging. And that's what I mean by, if he came in on day one of training and was reactive, they would fail him and we wouldn't see the next sessions. But that also being said, you can train, you can pass that first day, and then you can go on through the training, which includes hospital visits, exposure to people in wheelchairs, people running up on him quickly without my awareness, how he reacts to that, how he reacts to loud noises. And it's just one thing after the other.
So the prosecutor in Ocean County is Brad Billheimer, and Jager had been invited to do some community outreach work, and it was going very well, and more requests were coming in. And now you work for the prosecutor's office as a community service aide. Tell me about the kinds of work you do.
So here in the Special Offenders Unit at the prosecutor's office, we do the Veterans Diversion Program, Mental Health Diversion Program, but we do a lot of outreach. We also teach crisis intervention training for the county out of our office. And we also teach resiliency training, which is an Attorney General mandated training for police officers in New Jersey. And Jager is a part of all those while I'm teaching. He's present for those things there. I'm teaching crisis intervention. It's a week-long class to police officers from throughout the county. And then with resiliency training, it's the same thing. It's giving the officers the power of resiliency to deal with the job and the things that they see in it.
And how does K9 Jager help in those situations?
So during training, Jager's job is pretty much to lay down, not interrupt the training. The trainees interact with him during breaks, before class, after class, but his job is to not interrupt too much. We do a presentation with the class and let them know how in crisis situations, what they can expect from me, what they can expect from Jager, and how to interact with him at those times.
And you mentioned veterans, for instance. How do you and K9 Jager help veterans?
So Jager and I have been invited to and responded to veteran support groups in the past. We went to one in Toms River, and we had never been there before, so we weren't familiar with the setting. I'm familiar with how they work, but this particular one. So he just spent time interacting with the vets and going around. It was, as you can imagine, seated in a circle. And I took Jager off his lead, and then he just goes around and interacts with whoever he feels needs him the most.
And what do you see happening when Jager approaches someone who might need some comforting?
So in this particular instance, at this veteran support group meeting, Jager had greeted everyone in the group and then came and laid at my feet. There was another subject, a veteran, that came in after the class had begun and didn't interact with anyone. And so Jager saw him come in. Jager looked up at me, and he doesn't need my permission. He knows where to go. But he looked up at me, and he stood up, and he walked over to him, and he put his head in this gentleman's lap, so this gentleman just began to pet him. And then instead of coming back to me, Jager laid on his feet. That's a thing called deep pressure therapy or tactile distraction, where now that veteran feels Jager's presence on his feet, which forced him to go from a position where he was sitting back outside of the group to leaning forward so he could reach down and pet Jager. That veteran participated in the entire group meeting. And afterwards, I got a call from the woman who facilitated the meeting and invited us. And she was crying, and I said, is everything okay? And she said, you don't understand. That was amazing. That veteran has been coming to this group meeting for 3 months. He never interacts. He never speaks. He never comments on anything. I said, and he participated this entire meeting, and she attributed that to Jager's presence.
Wow, that's incredible. And how, if you can explain this, I don't know if you can, or whether in some of your trainings they've helped you to understand this. How is it, do you think, that the dog has an instinct about who needs comfort?
Well, it's not really an instinct. They read us from the inside out. So when we're in a stressful situation, whether it's grief, whatever the emotional instability is, that starts in our brain, right? It changes the chemical makeup of our brain. And that exactly is what dogs pick up on, right? They don't know what it is. They don't know. Jager didn't know he's a veteran. Jager didn't know he was struggling, and whether it was substance or some mental health or co-occurring or what have you, they don't know what the cause of that change in your chemical makeup in your brain is. They just know that it exists, and it's their goal to try and make that better.
Yes, dogs are very, very attuned to human emotions. It's incredible what they can pick up on. And you do other work besides your job with the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office as a volunteer that often takes you to situations where there have been absolutely horrific tragedies unfolding. What are some of the situations you've responded to with K9 Jager? And tell me about what happened when you were there, please.
So Jaeger and I also volunteer for an organization called Crisis Response Canines. It's a national organization, but it's based out of here in New Jersey. So what happens is when there's a traumatic event, whether it's a mass shooting, a school shooting, officer-involved suicides, student suicides, anything like that, Jaeger and I are what we don't respond to everyone. We have other people in the organization, but in the past, we have responded to Lewiston, Maine, in the end of 2023, when 18 members of that community were killed in a mass shooting. I believe it was 3 days after the shooting had happened. We were joined by 3 other teams, dog and handler teams from the organization. And basically, you meet up with the emergency management and the people that are running it, and they say, hey, we would like a visit from the dogs here. We would like one here. We respond to what's referred to on a regular basis. Sadly, we have a name for it. It's called the Cross Memorial. So usually whenever there's a tragedy, there's one specific spot where crosses are set up, where people can leave flowers and pictures of their loved ones. And it's sad that we actually have to have a name for something like that, and everyone knows what you're referring to.
Yeah.
So we responded to the bar where 11 people were killed, and 4 of those people were deaf or hard of hearing people as well.
And tell me what happened when you responded.
So Jaeger and I were walking around the parking lot of Shemengi's Bar and Grill in Lewiston, Maine. The shooter had gone to Just in Time Recreation Center previously, where 7 people were killed. He left there and responded to Shemengi's Bar and Grill, which happened to be one of his regular bars. He was a local. He knew about it. That was during the Deaf Cornhole League night, which was not lost on the shooter. And when we got there, there's a large number of the community was there. The president and his motorcade had just left the parking lot, and there was hundreds of people just milling around. So we just met with the community, and some people cried and hugged them. Some people wanted to take pictures with them. But the most poignant moment was when we were walking past the front door of Shemengi's Bar and Grill, which had just been returned to the owners from the crime scene cleanup people that day, unbeknownst to us. And there was a young woman walking out, and she was crying, and she was carrying a bunch of belongings in her arms. But she was sobbing, and when she saw Jaeger, she, did her best with her arms full to wipe her tears and to collect herself and start asking me about Jaeger. She was able to focus on something else for a few minutes. As we spoke, I dropped Jaeger's leash, and he lay down with his nose to the front step. We were at the front steps into the front door of the bar, which is where the shooter had entered the bar. Another woman came out that happened to be her mother, and she kneeled next to Jaeger. She didn't say a word to me. She didn't say anything to Jaeger. She kneeled down next to him, and she just put her hand on his back. She didn't pet him. She was just grounding through him, and she got emotional. And the girl I was talking to, who turned out to be her daughter, also got emotional. And I just let them cry. And then they said, "You don't understand. He's laying there because he knows." And I said, "What do you mean? What does he know?" And she said, "My father died right there. Her father was shot inside the bar and stumbled out the steps, and Jaeger was laying in the same spot that he passed away." And they believe that to be, purposeful on his part.
Wow. My God. Such powerful stories. So, what do you do after you've responded to a situation like this to support your own mental health? And what do you do to make sure K9 Jager is okay?
So, fortunately or unfortunately, however you look at it, after being a police officer for 25 years, you learn how to deal with some of these things. I have a fantastic support system. I have a great family at home. Jaeger is obviously a huge part of that family. My family is very understanding of what I do. I have a great support system here at the prosecutor's office. People know, when we respond to things and we go through things, I constantly get phone calls, texts, visits in my office. But one of the big things that I tell everyone is that the difference that he makes for people is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
to me. So that the good stuff that he does is really where I get my joy from, dealing with such tough things.
And I'm sure that the dog picks up on the heaviness of the situation. And when he's gone through all these certifications and trainings, was there any advice about what you should do to the dog? Like, do you specifically play a certain way after you've gone through something difficult, or how do you support K9 Jager?
Well, no, that depends on the kind of response that we do. When he does outreaches, if we go and do where he does coloring books, coloring with a kid, or reading books with kids and things like that, national night outs. He comes home and he wants to run around and play and be a regular dog and jump on the couch and grab shoes and everything. But when you do something that's filled with grief, like a crisis response, it uses a different kind of energy from the dog. It
Sure,
wears them out. So we've
sure.
gone to Charlotte, North Carolina, or Lewiston, Maine, for instance, when we would get back to the hotel at the end of the night after visiting, hospitals or attending funerals or visiting the shooting sites, he's snoring on the floor in the lobby while we debrief before we can even go upstairs. But one thing we do is I make sure he wears his vest, whether we're going to something quote unquote fun or if we're going to a crisis thing. Because one of the things I was taught that you don't want to just vest him up when we're going to something terrible,
Yeah,
because then he's going to begin to associate that vest with these terrible feelings, and it could potentially ruin your dog and its desire to be in those settings.
sure. I understand. And of course, at home, what is he like? Is he different? I know you have a few other dogs at home. So what is he like at home?
Jaeger at home is very much a family pet, very much a family member. He is third in the line of succession in our dogs. The boss is a 25-pound French bulldog, and Jaeger knows it. I don't know if high energy. He goes in spurts. They love to play in the backyard. He loves to cuddle with his sisters, meaning my daughters. He likes to get in bed, and it's a whole fun thing trying to get him out of bed. So he just fully integrates himself into the family system. And I'm sure you could talk to many other canine handlers when they get home at the end of the day and they're out of that car and the vest is off and the leash is gone. They become just regular dogs. And he's a lot of fun. He's ruined some furniture and shrubs running around the inside and outside of the house.
I'm sure a 181-pound dog could do that.
Yep.
And as we speak, K9 Jager is a semi-finalist in a competition run by the American Humane Society for a 2025 Hero Dog Award. How proud are you? What do you think about that?
Geez, the Hero Dog Award is something that I never would have pegged us for. It was brought to my attention by the National Police Dog Foundation, and Jaeger was nominated. And when Jaeger was chosen as a top 25 semifinalist, I mean, we were beside ourselves. And it's been just a great time ever since, because out of the 5 categories, Jaeger is one of the top 5 in the therapy dog category. And one winner will come out of each category to give you your 5 finalists overall for Hero Dog Award. But just being among the other dogs in the category, in our category, the other 4 are from Los Angeles, Nashville, Tampa, and New York, and we're from Barnegat Township. So it's just been great to be a part of the whole experience. We feel like winners already.
That's wonderful. And good luck to K9 Jager. So, what does it mean to you to be doing this work? Do you feel you found a second purpose in this work after your long career as a police officer?
When we retire, when officers retire, there's a separation, and police officers are helpers. And when you retire, all of a sudden you're going from helping all week, and then you walk out on your last day, and then no one calls you, no one needs you. And officers do struggle with that. And I was afraid of having that happen to me. I've seen it happen to other guys. So I was like, this dog thing, this is a great way to keep me engaged and to keep that helper mentality going. And as I mentioned previously, I didn't know it was coming because I'd never in 25 years kept a calendar, ever. My wife would tell me where to be and when to be there, but now, well, I'm filled through January. My calendar's full.
It's wherever K9 Jager needs to be. That's where
I'm
you
just
need
a
to
driver. Really, I should say Jaeger's calendar is full. I fully am aware of my position in this relationship. I love all my dogs. I obviously spend a lot more time with him than I do with the other two, because they can't leave the house. They're fantastic dogs, but if I put them in this, they would calm no one down. They would calm down no situation. They would be absolutely crazy. So I think the Mastiff breed itself is kind of a cheat code for this work, because they're inherently calm. They're confident, which leads to their calmness. But he's fantastic. He amazes me all the time. I think I've seen it all with him when it comes to crisis work and interacting with other people. And I see something new every time we go somewhere.
And finally, what would you tell other people about the value of doing work that helps others, and also about finding purpose in life?
Well, I think the value comes in being someone who may have been in a tough situation before and didn't have that help, or wasn't aware that that help was available. When you feel hopeless, there's no worse feeling than feeling hopeless. So I know what that can feel like. And the ability to turn it around and say, okay, what happened to me in that moment of feeling hopeless is not going to go away. It's not going to change. It's a part of me forever. But what I can do is try and meet other people in that situation and try and let them know that, even if it's for a brief few minutes of interaction, like it was with the girl that came out, the daughter that came out of the bar. She was crying, and for a few minutes she got to distract herself with Jager and learning about Jager and interacting with him. Did I cure her and make all her problems go away? No. She's going to need a lot more help than that. And she's always going to remember her father in a tragic way in which she lost him. But for those few moments, you can make that connection and start the healing process. So there's nothing more rewarding than to help other people, in my opinion.
And are you proud of K9 Jager?
Extremely, extremely proud. We leave a place and I get in the car and I give him good pats and tell him good job, and if I'm happy, he's happy. So, but yeah, I'm incredibly proud of him, and he amazes me every day.
Well, Mark Stanish, Community Service Aide for the Ocean County Prosecutor's Office in Toms River, New Jersey, thank you so much for the work you and K9 Jager are doing to help people, and thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, Sandy. We really appreciate it.
If you found today's show helpful, please share the information with someone who needs it, and follow Still Time for Joy for more practical tips on weathering life's storms, as well as inspiring stories of people who have turned their pain into purpose. Please consider supporting the work that goes into producing the show on Patreon. Follow Sandra Levine Productions on Facebook and YouTube, and learn more at sandralevine.com.